I don't know about you, but I always assumed TBRs were MBRs. Hi and welcome back to the channel. My name's Chris and I'm going to talk to you about what I intend to read in the month of August. You know, setting up a plan of way more books than I can ever possibly could read, but definitely what's in the discussion of the plan for what I'm going to do. And I'll break it into a couple of bits, you know, what I have to read in terms of things that have got arc-wise, things that I have committed to in terms of buddy reads, and then things that are in the general mix. And I did say in my monthly wrap-up that this was a month that things would kind of start to change, I think, in terms of reading. But we'll see how we get on. Let's get my stack of books, and I'll just... Hold on, give me a second. Oh! Oof. Now that'll do for the thumbnail. It's a decent sized chunk of books, and that's not including the digital ones. So what am I going to read? I'll start with the things that I've committed to read. I have 2 arcs that I need to finish this month. One is the first binding by R. Verdi. I'm a bit intimidated by that one because it's 800 odd pages, and it's a long one, although it's supposedly great. So I've got that to read. I've got that as an arc, and I've made very good progress on, actually I'm nearly finished it, is The Children of Gods and Men, which is Shauna Lawless's upcoming release that isn't released to the 1st of September, I believe, but I'll be finishing in short form. Look out for a video review of that at some stage because it's a topic that's very near and dear to my heart. It's a book that's very much about mixing Irish mythology with fantasy, and you can probably tell from my accent, it's something that I'm kind of drawn to read, and so far it's pretty good. So in terms of committed reads, I only have a couple this month, which is great. I mean, couple so far, because you know how these things go. Somebody mentions a book, somebody goes, well, I'd like to read that, and then everybody's reading it. So the first one is a read along with a couple of the people from the Grimoire Discord, you know, good friend Theo, Rekindled Reader, and Alex are doing it there. I don't know who else is doing it there, but they had started off by reading the Sun Eater series by Christopher Rocchio last month, and I had read Empire of Silence a few months ago, so I thought I'll step outside for that first one, but I'll come back in and I'll do the next book, which is Howling Dark. And you probably see I've just started it today. I'm about 40 or so pages in. I've removed the slipcover because that's what I do for hardbacks in case it gets damaged. So just to prove it is the right book, it is the hardcover. It's a big book. Jesus, it's a big book. I mean, I thought, God, it'll be a hardcover, but you know, the things will be decently spaced. The writing is a tech. Jesus, it's definitely not. So that's what I'm going to read along with the guys, and I'll be posting my ideas down there. If you want to join in, go join the Grimoire Discord. I'll put the link down in the description in case you don't know about it, and you can join the read along that's on there as well. That's great fun. The other one that I've committed to do is on Dom's book club, his Discord as well. It's down in the description, where we have committed to sort of a buddy read of Christopher Brennan's The Hellborn King. That's going to be sort of second half of August, so that gives me some stage to get those couple of big chunkers out of the way and maybe get way along this, and then I'll finish off the month with that. And you know, as far as I'm concerned, that could be my whole month's reading right there. I mean, hardly going to have time for anything else, you would imagine, except I've still got a couple of weeks off left from work. I've got about 2 weeks off here to start, where I'm kind of in a good, you know, I've started a new book here. I'm kind of in the mood to just kind of keep on reading, which is fabulous, obviously. So I'll talk about 2 of the books that I'm currently reading. You know, I've been reading Nightmares and Dreamscapes here as part of Jake Bookstrummer's weekly read along in terms of those stories. It reads usually 1 short story a week. Everybody posts their thoughts, rates it at the end of the week. Again, I'll put his link down in the description if you want to join in that. But it's the short story collection, or one of Stephen King's short story collections. Get involved. It's been a really good collection so far, and it'll take us a good while to get through all of these. So plenty of time to jump back in. I missed the first couple of weeks and I've been sort of catching up, but still always great to go back and read everybody's thoughts about each short story and see what they think. So that's one that had started and will continue through this month and next, etc. as we go along. I talked about this in my films. I've been reading Truman Capote's In Cold Blood. I'm not that far along into it. Truman Capote's In Cold Blood tells the story of a real life set of murders in Kansas in 1954. or 59, sorry, of the Clutter family, and it was dramatized and made into a movie by Richard Brooks later on. I've talked about that in my watch list if you want to go and check that out. You can even jump to the timestamp that's in the video there. And this is a fictionalization, or a novelization of a non-fiction story, and really interesting because it tells the story both before and after of the women that were involved in this horrific crime and the reasons for doing it, etc. Really fascinating. One thing I'll say about these kind of Penguin Classics things, look how small the text is in those. It's ridiculous. Need good light for that. Now I've got really good eyesight, but even this is stretching what I'm comfortable with. Okay, on to the things that I'd like to get to. Seems like ages ago I talked about wanting to get to the end of Mistborn Era 1. Now, I have a audio version of this, so I'll probably do a mix and match of when I go back to work. I'll be reading the book, listen to the audio on the way to work, and kind of mixing and matching that up. So I would imagine that I'll probably get this done, which would be nice to finish off a series of both books in the series have been 5-star reads already. And if I want to get to book 7 that's released in November, I'd need to get a move on. And then that's the end of my fantasy reads that I've really planned. I mean, I could do Royal Assassin there, I've any number of books behind me that I could do, but that's a lot of fantasy to make my way through. And like I say, this is where things will change. If I watch my wrap up from earlier on, you'll see that I kind of read one of the Booker nominated long list books and loved it, absolutely loved it. It was a short book, but I thought, let's try at least another one from that genre, and I'm going to do Novella Bulueo's Glory. When I look through the list of the books, when I look through the synopsis of the book, it's the one that struck me as the most interesting. It plays on the animal farm idea of using animals, anthropomorphized animals, to tell the story about a political event. So in this case, it's the breakdown of the coup of the Zimbabwean government. A fictional world of these characters to kind of tell that story. And it's an absolutely beautiful cover, don't you agree? It's gorgeous. So like, these books aren't as long. This one's just 400 pages. I fancy I'll be able to knock this out, especially if I find it interesting, especially if I'm kind of in that mood of trying to discover, what's so good about some of this kind of literature, modern literature and things that are quite lauded, and by somebody whose other book was nominated for Booker Prize as well. So this is their second book, and really quite interesting. I'm looking forward to getting into it. Like I say, doesn't look bad on the shelf either. It's no bad thing. Some nice spot gloss in there, as you can see. And then I'm into, once I'm doing those, I wouldn't mind going and reading some classics now. When I was a younger man, I used to read a few classics, and I think it's one of the reasons that I kind of stopped reading as heavily as it did, because some of them were a bit heavy for the age that it was at the time. This is one that I've actually sort of read before, many years ago, and I don't think I got the end of it. It's Alexandre Dumas' Three Musketeers. Like I say, I think I've read this before, maybe not. I certainly had a copy of it for a very long time. In fact, I checked, and no doubt as soon as I start reading this, I'll find my old copy of Three Musketeers. It seems to straddle that bit nicely between, classics and adventure fantasy in some way, so that's going to be part of my reads. Now, these Penguin Classics do have some notes at the start, which it'll be interesting to see what way I use those. And then trying to mix in some non-fiction, if I can. I have two books that I'm kind of tumbling between. One, a general thing, obviously the conflict in Russia dominates an awful lot of the headlines at the moment. So I've got the Penguin History of Modern Russia here. So from Tsarism to the 21st century, and it's one of the Penguin politics line. This will be a fairly heavy read, I would imagine. It's 700 odd pages of text. I might jump away in and out of it. If I think that's a bit too heavy, I'm going to go for another Russian book, and it's Gulag the History. So the history of the Gulag, and how I expect that to be quite horrific. This author, Anne Applebaum, is somebody that's written a lot about the Russian experience. So that's my TBR pile or MBR pile, whatever way you want to do it, or whatever way you want to call it. Have you read any of these before? Are you joining me for any of these? Because these will hopefully be what I talk about next month. And we'll see how I get on. I mean, there's just no way I'll make my way through it, but you never know. Catch you next time on the channel. Take care.